And thanks for that, Sophia. OK, to our top story this hour. A number of Just Stop Oil protesters have been arrested as they took to the streets of central London. Some were handcuffed and put into police vans as they held a slow march in the capital. The environmental group is vowing to march every day from this point until it wins, whatever that means. The campaign will last 7 days until November the 26th, demanding that the government stops all new licences for oil and gas contracts. Well, we can cross now and get all the very latest with GB's reporter Ray Addison, who's been following the events today. Ray, you're becoming something of a thorn in the side for the Great Unwashed protesting on the streets of London. First Palestine, now Just Stop Oil. Top work to that man. So what happened today? Were the police finally getting tougher? Once again, was it tea and sympathy?
Well, the police definitely didn't hang around. They got tough straight away with Just Stop Oil, and Just Stop Oil posting on their socials showing that they are absolutely livid, saying 15 people arrested for marching for 2 minutes will now face up to 1 year in prison. This is what our democracy has become, end quote. So Just Stop Oil, they're feeling very much that they should have been given longer for their protest. Of course, the police arresting 15 activists under Section 7 of the Public Order Act. That allows them to make those arrests if they feel that a protester is interfering with road transport infrastructure. Of course, those laws beefed up earlier on this year by Parliament. Of course, that protest started at Trafalgar Square. They all met up at 12 o'clock, about 12:30. About 50 of them headed down to Whitehall. They told us that their intention was to march all the way to Parliament. When they got onto Whitehall, that Section 7 notice was issued very, very quickly, and those arrests happened very, very swiftly as well. Only a few Just Stop Oil members managed to get further than, say, around 100 metres, and they were all taken to the curbside, some in handcuffs, some were dragged, some were picked up and carried. They were arrested, and then, as you were saying, they were taken to those police vans, Martin.
OK, Ray Addison, thank you for that latest update. Well, joining me now in the studio is James Harvey, who took part in today's Just Stop Oil protest. James, you're one of the organisers of Just Stop Oil protests. How do you think the police handled today? It seems there's more of a clampdown. Before, we've seen them giving water, tea and sympathy. A lot of people out there getting a bit fed up with that. Do you think there's more of a clampdown today?
They do seem to be reacting very, very quickly and not letting people march on the streets, which is really interrupting people's right to protest. And by the way, just to say, I'm a spokesperson for Just Stop Oil. I'm not an organiser. Right. But I am here because people have put their freedom on the line. There are 18-year-olds, there are 19-year-olds being put on remand for peacefully marching in the street, asking for an end to new gas and oil licensing.
You say, James, that these are going to go on, these protests, until you win. What does winning look like?
Well, our demand is for the government, which we regard as a criminal government, to stop all new oil and gas licensing.
Well, they won't do that, so what are you going to do next?
Well, the marches are going to continue in London, 12 o'clock every day, meet in Trafalgar Square, and we'll be marching in civil resistance against the government, who we believe are committing acts of oblique genocide by these policies of new oil and gas, and we'll continue until they stop them. OK, well, when we look at the energy demands of this country, if we just stopped oil, we'd be back to the dark ages, literally. The lights would go out. Absolutely.
And so, is that what you want? Or you want us just for the lights to go out? Or
absolutely not, no.
So what is your plan if you win? Because if we win, we can't run industry, we can't manufacture steel, we can't manufacture concrete, we can't get around. The country would come to a standstill. Victory, to me, looks like we go back to living in caves.
It's a massive question, and I wish we had more time to talk about it. But actually, we have 7 years of oil reserves. We're not talking about cutting off oil and gas overnight. We've got those reserves we can use whilst we transition to renewable energy. And all the science is there. The scientists know we can do this. We've got improvements that we need to make to the grid. We've got onshore the wind that we can bring online. We've got masses of offshore wind and solar energy we can bring online. And it can work. And
what happens when the wind stops, which it often does when we need it most in the winter?
It's a common question, but the science is there, and we know that we can switch to other parts of the UK. There may be some grid improvements that are needed. Get a scientist on to talk about it.
But we can't store wind energy because we don't have batteries capable of, certainly not on the size that we would need. So therefore, we are still dependent on fossil fuels. If we just stop oil, I'll put it to you again, we're going to go back to the dark ages.
No, it's simply not true. We know from the engineers that we've got at the moment that we can use renewable energy. We've got 7 years of, as I say again, we've got 7 years of oil and gas reserves we can continue to use. These new licences that are opening in the North Sea are going to do nothing for our energy security. They're going to do nothing for people's cost of living.
Well, it would make more sense to produce our own gas and oil as opposed to importing it from South America, from Venezuela, from North America, from Australia even, which is what we do at the moment, because we'd surely energy sovereignty would make us less vulnerable to tyrants like Vladimir Putin, for example.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? Because the trouble is, once these licences are given out to the likes of Equinor or BP, we don't own that oil and gas anymore. It's on the open market, and they will sell it to the highest bidder, which probably won't be us when it comes round to it. However, what an opportunity we've got for the renewable energy that we can invest in now. The government spends $236 million on subsidies for the oil and gas industry at the moment. Why not put that into renewable energy? OK,
James, Just Stop Oil put their name today to a report in The Guardian claiming that the richest 1% of the wealthy are super polluters. Who funds Just Stop Oil?
Well, actually, we're funded by ordinary people from around the country.
Well, you're
more than half our donations now come from ordinary people around the country, like you and me, your neighbours, whoever.
You're funded primarily by the Climate Emergency Fund, aren't you? And that was founded by Aileen Getty, the granddaughter of John Paul Getty, whose petrochemical empire made him the world's richest man.
Well, I'm not sure what your point is.
Well, you're funded by oil money.
If his granddaughter wants to fund a movement that is set up to stop new oil and gas, then great. And it helps these young people that are out on the streets marching at the moment. As I say, my friend Noah, 18-year-old, he's been working since he was 16. He's currently on remand facing trial for marching in the street, asking for a livable future. Do you think that's right?
I think if we have a law and it's breached repeatedly, for example, we saw on Waterloo Bridge recently, Just Stop Oil blocked an ambulance with its blue lights on. The St Thomas's Hospital is right next to that. It's the hospital where my child has been. How do you feel if a child on the way to that hospital died as a direct consequence of the fact that your mob are blocking the bridge?
A disruption of any sort is an awful step to take. And anyone that's either disrupted or suffers any kind of injury as a result of our marches, it's a terrible thing to happen. But we know civil resistance works.
I wonder if it does. One of your other founders, Trevor Nielsen, he stepped away from the Climate Emergency Fund, the primary funder of Just Stop Oil, which is primarily funded on oil money, by saying it's become disruption for the sake of disruption. Working people that are trying to get to their job, get their kids dropped off at school, survive a brutal cost of living crisis in the UK. There's a certain hierarchy that they are doing. It's just performative. It's not accomplishing anything. That's one of your founders.
Yeah, and funders, I should say. They come and go, but as I say, the public generally fund most of our donations at the moment. However, let's just look at what happened in the Netherlands recently, where people, ordinary people from Extinction Rebellion blocked the A12 main road during the month of September, and the police turned around and said, we can't deal with this government, you need to negotiate. And as a result, the Dutch government has voted to phase out oil and gas subsidies, which is massive news, and that's civil resistance in action, and that's what can happen here if you get out on the streets, 12 o'clock, Trafalgar Square every day. Please come and join us.
OK, James Harvey, you put your case forward completely. Well done, mate.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
OK, let's move on. Meanwhile, there are real fears that pro-Palestinian protests may turn increasingly violent in the days ahead.